I am Dr. Stephanie Jax. I am a creative chiropractor, a health and wellness advocate and coach, and a master educator. Welcome to our sofa chat. Come on in, join our conversation. On tonight, we're going to be talking about our inner child, answering the call to our inner child. And so first, what we're going to do is we're going to start with just some definitions, and I will be reading from my notes. I like to write a lot of notes so that I can make sure that I give you the right information. So when we talk about our inner child, what is an inner child? Anyone in the audience want to share with us what they feel the definition is of an inner child?
I'll go. The inner child is that part of us that experienced everything that we went through in our childhood. Although a lot of us want to act like that part of us is gone, I believe that child is still there, and I think that we need to do some work on that child.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And it's almost like you were reading my notes. So you're exactly right. What an inner child is. An inner child is that part of us that's actually been with us since we were aware, since we were born. That's the child, that's the part of us that's been with us there. Our inner child, it recalls the good times that we've had. I can remember my grandma's her baking. I can remember her cooking. I can remember the smell of her perfume. Whenever I smell white diamonds, I always think of my grandmother. I can think of all the things that were good when I was a child. The inner child also remembers those things that weren't as good, those things that were traumatic to us, those things that caused us to have fears, caused us to have traumas, cause us to feel neglected. So I have a question for you all. How quickly can you recall any of these feelings? Like, how long does it take before one of these feelings of when you were a child, when things were good, or when you felt some trauma? How quickly does that come to you?
Depending, the trauma comes quick. It's almost like you don't recognize it. It sneaks up on you. I have caught myself falling back into reactions as an adult, not as rational as I would want to be, reacting to pains or so it's almost instantaneous. Now the good ones, some of the good ones, because there's good trauma too. You know what I'm saying? That sticks with you too, and I those, like you said, like a scent, a sound. Hell, I give you a good one. I got this YouTube music. I got the YouTube music app, and I can play whatever I want. And I could be riding, and I'll put my playlist on random, and music will come on, and I will remember a certain time in my life, and damn near break out in tears.
Wow.
You know, so. And good tears, you know, not the bad one, but it's just like, damn, time, you know, I am that old man that I used to look at and be like, shut up, old dude.
I know. Oh my gosh. It's like, and you're exactly right, because it's like, I'm such a nostalgic person. I hold on to, those good feelings. When I hear a song from like the 80s or even the 70s, my grandmother, I lived with my grandmother, and she raised me, and she would always have her radio playing, and it would always be on. To her, it was the oldie station, I guess. Well, actually, for me, it was the oldie station, but for her, it was like times that, it was her time and her music. And anytime I hear any of those songs, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this, or I remember that. I can remember the songs. I can remember when the song came out. I can remember what I was doing when the song came out. I can remember my age. It's like those memories come back like instantaneously. Hey, Kathy. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Busy, but doing good.
Well, we missed you. Is Brother Mark going to join us today?
I think so, in a little while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we missed you, and we're so glad to see you. So
Glad to
on
be back.
tonight, thank you. On tonight, we're talking about our inner child, right? What is the inner child? What does the inner child do? Brother Hatem, do you mind reiterating your definition? Because your definition is exactly what mine was of the inner child and what it means to us.
You know I can't repeat.
Oh my God.
Once I launch, you know, y'all got to go back and catch it on the rewind. I don't know what I said.
Okay, well, you know what? You save me often, so I'm going to save you right now. The inner child is that part of us that's been with us from conception, pretty much. And our inner child is like our subconscious. Our inner child remembers everything. It doesn't, our inner child doesn't forget a thing. It remembers all of the good feels, and then it also remembers those things that didn't feel as good, right? And so I use the example of a good time. I can remember my grandmother, because she was my favorite person ever. I can remember her favorite perfume. I can remember, what her house smelled like. Even I can remember like when it was wintertime and her heat would come on, that smell. Whenever I come in my house, when it's about to be wintertime and I cut on my heat, I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels like home. This feels like grandma's house. So, it's just an immediate feeling of nostalgia. Why are we talking about the inner child tonight? Is a discussion on the inner child even important or significant? Tell me what you think.
Definitely.
Why so?
Because many of us were wounded and didn't have time to heal from some of our childhood experiences. And sometimes they can overshadow and overtake some of the things that are popping off in our adult life. You know what I'm saying? Since we don't have an official rites of passage, you know what I'm saying? Where we could go on and get rid of some of that pain, is sitting there festering for some of us. So
you are exactly right. Anybody else? Hey, Cheryl.
Hey, I got a grandson, so I gotta be on. I'm gonna be jumping in and out because he got the TV on.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you. Hey, Brother Mark.
Thank you.
I do want to say something too.
Yes.
I have a little bit different perspective from Brother Hatem.
Okay.
I actually think the inner child makes some of us actually need to listen to our inner child to remember Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay. Some of us need to listen to our inner child so we remember where we came from. Some of us think that we've been, what is the term? Given the rights to be who we are, not realize we earned certain rights.
So then how does that impact, where does the inner child play in that part?
Sometimes when you're actually involved in things, you need to think about who is it going to affect as far as who you take care of. Sometimes we think on our own terms of taking care of us and not others.
And you know what? That brings up the next point I was going to say. The inner child is that part of us that feels calm. Sometimes it feels understood. It feels warm and fuzzy, but then again, it also feels betrayed. It also feels hurt. It also feels ignored. It also feels lied to. And there's some triggers that bring about those feelings inside the inner child. And I think that both Brother Mark and Brother Hatem alluded to that some of these triggers come from our unmet needs. When we were a child, it comes from our unmet needs. It comes from those times when we felt unsafe. And I think that, and this is just again my opinion, I think that us here tonight and when we join together as a group, we're a part of that group that Brother Hatem often mentions, which is the Generation X. And we after hearing him say that and me doing a little bit more introspection and doing a little more research, I'm beginning to feel that we are that group of people who are misunderstood to a degree. We are that group of people who need each other so that we can kind of talk about the experiences that we have, because our experiences are very unique just to us. We're the ones that's kind of stuck in between this young group of people that we often end up talking about and those older people that are a part of the baby boomer age range, who are still here, alive and kicking it and all, and they're kind of taking up some of our space and our energy. But we're stuck between being parents and grandparents and maybe taking care of our parents and taking care of our children. So we're kind of sandwiched in between, and that's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of responsibility. Some people might not understand us, but it's important for us to understand ourselves, to be in touch with our inner child. You may notice that you're feeling fear sometimes. You may notice that you're feeling like Brother Mark said, that you are a perfectionist, that you have it all together, so to speak. You may feel anxious. You may feel like you want to avoid certain things. These are all ways that your inner child is attempting to feel safe. That inner child is on the inside of us. Sometimes he or she is screaming for our attention, and we suppress that inner child. And it's important for us to not just suppress it, but to address whatever those concerns are. It is important for us to as an adult, it's important for us to sit down and have a conversation with our inner child. What are some ways that you can think of that you've had to have a nice sit down talk with your inner child? Can you think of any times?
Majority of the time with me is actually at night when I'm laying down.
Really?
Yep. I have the conversations with myself, like, did I accomplish what I need to accomplish today? And where I'm gonna go, what I'm gonna do the next day. And my inner child actually keeps me on point to stay youth, to stay young, to think young, not to think like an old man. Like Brother Hatim said, I'm 55 now. It feels funny being 55 years old. And then everybody looking at you like, what up, old dude?
What up, old dude? And I used to be the youngest one in the room. I'd be like, oh my God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I have to access mine because I work with young people. I got to access my inner child often. You know what I'm saying? But then again, I got to access my older inner dude to tell somebody to sit their ass down sometime too. You know what I'm saying? But oftentimes I have a struggle with my inner child because sometimes it will come out screaming. You know what I'm saying? And I have to find ways to kind of calm it down because, because children don't take stuff like adults at all. Right. You know what I'm saying? And because for example, talking to my inner child is like when I'm sitting there talking to somebody that's bold-faced lying to me, my inner child want to be like, hey man, you lying. I have people lying in my face straight up. And it's like, a child would look at you and innocently be like, that's not the truth. Right. But as adults or professionals, because as a professional, I'm not supposed to tell somebody who's lying to me that you're lying. I'm supposed to walk them around to help them figure out that what they're telling me is not helping solve the problem. When they need to be actually told, you's a goddamn lie. But you wouldn't, me and my inner child would be out hungry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm trying to figure that out where. Right.
You wouldn't be able to take care of your own children.
Yeah, my inner child and my children all be hungry.
Well, Brother Hatim, you are funny. So there are two things that I wanted to to have us to go into a discussion about. One is that, again, like Brother Mark said, and even Brother Hatim spoke of, is having those inner dialogues with your inner child, having the conversation. I find that whenever I am at home by myself, when my kids are gone, when I don't have any other responsibilities to them, when I'm at home by myself, I immediately sink into this conversation. I start talking to myself. Fortunately, the dogs, they don't say anything to me per se, so they don't interrupt my conversation. But I'm constantly going back to when I was a child, or when things traumatic have happened to me, even as an adult, right? And so I think for a minute that sometimes that's considered to be a saboteur, and that's something that sabotages us from and takes away from us our happiness. They steal our joy. And so I have to remind myself to not stay there. When I go back to when I was 17, as a matter of fact, there's a young lady who she was, I think I might have been 16. She might have been like 13. Her sister and I went on a double date with two guys. They totally ditched us. They never showed up. Yes, do you know this woman is a woman? She's like almost 50, and she remembers that, and she will constantly bring it back in our faces. She'd be like, Stephanie, you remember when such and such, they dumped you? They never showed up. And I'm like, gosh, I'm trying to forget it. And so it's like a snowball. Once I remember that event, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I got dumped by them, and then I got dumped by them, and then I'm like in a downward spiral. So I try to, I'll go back and reflect on occurrences or things that happen that may not necessarily be good, but I don't want to stay there, because if I stay there, then I'll get into like a funk. I'll get into a bad space, and that's not good. That's not good. Another thing that we can do is to begin to listen and learn about our inner child's needs, the pains, the hopes, the dreams, anything that was unresolved or unmet. Taking steps to make those things happen. If our inner child had a dream of playing the guitar, that might not be a bad idea as a 50-plus-year-old person to maybe take a guitar lesson, because that maybe would be able to address or fulfill the unmet need of your inner child. Any thoughts before I go to our next point? Yes, Brother Mark.
So listen to your first point. We got to also realize there are people in our lives who live in the past, and it's their job to keep us in the past. Because that was actually the most important part of their life. They don't know how to move forward because they still living in the past.
Oh my gosh, I'm writing it down. That was the most important part of their life.
Yep. That's why they keep bringing it up. I have a classmate right now. Every time we meet, he keeps bringing up when we played basketball in high school.
There you go.
I can't remember high school, but he remembers us playing basketball in high school.
Remember playing basketball? Some people don't mature past that whole piece. And right. It's like, for example, you see this with a lot of athletes because, I mean, the past was all that was the best. Yep. You know what I'm saying? My life hasn't measured up to what I thought it should be. And now that's all I have. So I'm gonna hang on to that. So I'm gonna hang on to my memory of you getting jumped. And because it brings me joy.
Yes.
They beat the hell out of you. It makes me feel so good.
Yes. Yes.
I remember I have friends. I remember when you had hair.
Right.
That's 30-something years ago. Why are you still remembering that?
Right.
Because it makes me feel good. I like rubbing it in your face that you lost your hair, Brother Mark, and I still remember beating you at basketball. Thank you very much.
Right.
It makes me feel good. I can always beat you. You know what I'm saying?
At least in my mind.
Right. See, but that's what they are, and we have to understand that. And that's them hanging on to the inner child, because that inner child not only, it can serve us, it can hold us back. And it also could provide a false sense of protection by keeping us stuck in the past. Many of us can't succeed because we're hanging on to what was rather than dealing with what is.
And now there's some doctors actually identifying this as a type of mental illness.
I would
And-
totally agree. I would
Yes.
totally agree. It is definitely attached to a mental illness because it's a part of us that's stuck, and we can't be successful. Like you both said, you can't be successful. You can't move on if you can't get past it, if you cannot address it per se. The inner child may need to tell you a story that has been kept inside of you for years. It may also ask you to speak up for yourself or to show up for yourself. So I can recall when we first began our sofa chats, we would often talk about boundaries. We always talked about boundaries, and boundaries are still important, and they always come up in conversations. That inner child may be screaming what Hatem says sometimes. His inner child is screaming. That inner child may be screaming for you to address a boundary, may be screaming for you to speak up so that you can protect not only the inner child, but then also to protect yourself, right? And your inner child may need to heal past hurts and again, set those boundaries. And so one thing says that successful people have a content inner child. What do you think that means? How does that land with you? That a successful person has a content inner child.
I would agree with that, because this is a person that is able to harness their past, live in the present, and create their future.
Yes.
Wow.
They got all parts of themselves working as one, working together. Now, that's all you just described. What you know what I'm saying, what we have, especially in our community, because a lot of us, being in the age grade that we are, we come from real ass whoopings. Not this, not
Yes, sir.
not this, you know what I'm saying? Because that's why it's hard for a lot of people to really understand Generation X, because we are still young enough where we can get out here and really deal with some of these people, some of these younger people, but old enough to have come from a time before microwaves and stuff like that. So we have a different view of the world. Like, like for example, as a child, I had to learn how to heal. I don't know if anybody's seen the old Marvel movies like Wolverine.
Yes, sir.
I was held responsible to have a healing factor because we weren't going to the hospital.
Yep. Yep.
Healing.
Yes, sir.
I had to get over it. You know what I'm saying? I had to wait for my food. You know what I'm saying? So as a child, we went through a whole different process. So now we have children. Like, for example, I was talking to one of my brothers just today. Yesterday we had a graduation, rites of passage ceremony for some young ladies called the Lady Warriors, right? For one of our rites of passage programs. And we had somebody cater it, but they brought food in that we had to pay for. So I took Gye-Nyame, my business credit card. I gave it to one of the younger warriors, and I told him to feed all the kids that was with us. So he go and feed the kids, right? I give limits, boom, boom, boom. So one of the kids want extras, so he gets all the extras. That's cool, right? All right, cool. You hungry? All right, go and eat. How much is the bill? Damn. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to sell some more e-courses. But anyway, I say, all right. So I look at the plate, and an hour later, I look at the same plate. He took a couple of nibbles off the chicken, took a little bit of macaroni and cheese. This is some good food. Now, realize I'm fasting too, so I'm hungry as hell, and I'm looking at this little boy who just is about to throw away a $20 plate of food. And I was about to, because he's in my Rites of Passage program, I have ass whooping permission. I said, son, you are not going to throw away that plate. You're going to eat it all. Now, what I'm trying to put is a different mind state, because I want those of us that came up in the generation we came through. Imagine throwing away a plate of food.
Never. Never.
You know what I'm saying? A plate of food. And I said,
What?
but it's a different mind state. So now, going back to the inner child, I had to learn how to deal with that. And I have to learn how to accept people where they are and have conversations with them in a calm way, because let me put it this way. My inner child was ready to jump out and fight this other child. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, hey, what the hell you doing? You about to get us both in trouble. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna stop. Let me shut up. I'm enjoying myself.
You are absolutely fine. I want for us to discuss a couple of more points, and then I want to take this conversation to the community. Yes, Brother Mark.
1 second. I want to go back to Brother Hatim real quick too. How I embrace the inner child. I've actually learned how to embrace it and not be afraid to tell people what I'm afraid of.
Oh.
There are certain things in my life. My wife knows I'm quick to tell everybody. I'm scared of dogs. I'm scared of snakes. I'm not afraid to let anybody know that. So whenever you're around me, you don't wonder why I don't like animals. I do not do animals. So, and we always talk stories about how we walk, and I'll push her in front of the dog and all kind of stuff. She knows.
Oh, you ain't do that.
If a dog coming, she better beat me running.
God damn. Oh my God, that's love. Cause she love you. I could have what? Oh my God.
You know how you sometimes react and don't think the process through.
Oh my God.
I know I'm wrong. I'm wrong for the process, but my act is like, forget that.
In these days and time, you're not wrong, because it's equal rights now. Everybody for themselves.
You better stop. You better stop.
Best whatever you label yourself, the best one survive. Let's get it.
So I've learned by embracing who I am, it makes me easy to actually accept who I am as well. I think a lot of us have the concept in our minds we never embrace who we are. That's why you never accept where you are.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree. Hey, Sister Kim.
Hey.
Hey, we are glad that you joined us tonight. You must have got my email.
Yeah, I did. I got your email. I was cooking, so I looked at the time. I was like, oh, let me hurry up and hop on. I'm going to run back because I put my timer on. I have something in the oven. I got to take it out in 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, we're glad that you joined us. So tonight we're talking about our inner child and how to address the inner child. We're not gonna spend this. We're not going to talk all about it just tonight. In other words, we are going to share this on into next week as well. So we'll have more to talk about. So on tonight, we're talking about the definition of what an inner child is, which we, know is that it's like a subconscious. It's like the part of us that holds on to stuff, our good, our bad from childhood, and our inner child lives with us every day. And so we have within us the inner child as well as the adult self. And so, just figuring out how to create a balance, and that a healthy person and a successful person is that person that is content or has a content inner child. They're emotionally regulated and calm. And so Brother Hatim gave the example of, you heard what he gave the example of, and how his inner child, he had to address it from a calm perspective. Sometimes things occur to us that trigger us immediately. I do not know really what it was, but I think my daughter, we were in the kitchen. She was at the table, and I was, cooking something, and I sat down. And this was last week, and she asked me a question about my mom. And of course, my mom passed away like 3 years ago. So my daughter asked me a question about my mom, and I realized that she brought up, I cannot remember the example, but she brought up something. And I tell you, I went from 53 to 13. I went back 40 years in less than 2 minutes. And at that time, I remembered an event that happened. I don't know what it is. I said something to my mom. Let's see. I said something to my mom, and she went all the way off. Brother Hatim talking about an ass whooping. My mother beat the crap out of me. And that was so uncharacteristic because I'm the good kid. Like, she
Mhm.
never had to whoop me. She never had to do anything, but we were visiting in Alabama and she beat the hell out of me. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was so embarrassed. And I don't know what it was. I think it was because she had saw my dad, or I had saw my dad, which they weren't together ever. And she saw, and I spent time with him. And I guess she thought maybe, perhaps, I was feeling myself, or I was smelling myself, whatever the case may be. I was so hurt till I remember that. And I'm relaying the story to my daughter, and before I knew it, I'm crying.
Oh,
and
wow.
I felt what I felt way back then, 40 years ago. I felt it. And it was painful for me. And so one of the things that, we can do as adults is reparent ourselves. Because after my mom passed away, it wasn't, I don't want to say that it was a relief for me at all. I don't want to sound like that. But for me, what it was now I had a chance to address whatever the issues, because she never wanted to address any of the issues. So I had to realize, hey, listen, I'm going to have to parent myself or reparent. I'm going to have to deal with those things that I wanted her and I to deal with, that she, just couldn't, because again, she was from that generation where they didn't do any talking, or they didn't explain anything. You do what I say do, and that's it. And I don't necessarily agree with that at all. And so for me, I didn't go to the opposite extreme, but for me, as as a parent raising my children, I'm like, you have permission to do these things. It's okay to do these things. I'd rather you, experience them where I could guide you, as opposed to you making life impacting choices. So that's my little piece here.
Wow.
Anybody else?
Wow, I wasn't ready for that. You guys went deep.
I mean, and quick.
This is heavy. Oh God, I'm trying to think. I think as adults, we do this all the time. I'm very reflective. Both my parents have passed away. My dad, and then first, and my mom 10 years later. So I'm very reflective as it relates to my parents, because they're not around. So I just have to, that's my connection with them, is to be reflective. And I have my situation is similar to yours. I wasn't a difficult child at all. I've always been a pretty easy person.
Right.
But my mom did spank me once in my life, and it taught me a life lesson that stuck with me forever. And I actually tell my students about this. I taught in Africa for a number of years. I lived in West Africa. And my husband is West African, and I've told my students in Africa. Yeah.
What's your name?
Sambu.
Girl, how you doing?
Hey, you didn't know who I was?
No!
How you so
Oh my God!
Oh, that's insane. You didn't recognize
You got the hat on. Look, I was just looking, and I'm running this stuff in between, and I said, I know the voice.
Oh, you know why? Because on Facebook, I don't use my married name. I use my maiden name.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's it.
Are you still in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Okay. But it's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice. But I have a similar situation where I was young. I was about 5 or something, 4-ish, in kindergarten, and we were visiting friends, my mom's friends, and I'm so embarrassed to tell the story, but it's real. And I think we can relate to it in some way. I was a child, I was like 4-ish, and I was visiting friends, and there was a little girl there. Her friends, you know how they have, my mom brought her daughter, and her friend didn't have a daughter. Her sister had a little girl, and they wanted me to play with the little girl. And I wasn't playing with the little girl. And they were like, Kim, go over there and play with the little girl. Why don't y'all go ahead and play? And I said, I'm not going to play with her. She's too black for me to play with.
Oh my.
Yes, I did say that.
Okay.
And my mother, her friend, she was visiting. You know, they're dark skinned. My mother's a light skinned woman. She wanted to kill me. She almost killed me when we got home.
Oh my goodness.
When we got home, we went to my grandparents' house. She didn't say nothing to nobody. She just drugged me straight to the bathroom and she spanked me. She gave me a real one.
Oh my goodness.
And my grandparents were like, what's going on? You know, they were banging at the door. What's going on? Why are you doing this to this child? And when she told them, she was like, this is what she did. And my grandfather was like, I'm so sorry. I've been saying that around her. I've been saying you shouldn't be talking to these people. They too black. And he will be driving in a car and he say, oh, that person, they black. That's why they can't drive. They probably from Alabama. And I was 4. So I just, whatever was around me, that's what I said.
Right.
And so when she gave me that spanking, she never whooped me ever again. That shook the heck out of me. And from that moment on, I stopped being like that. From the age of 4, I literally like, oh, that's a horrible way to be.
Right.
And I stopped being like that. And so it was life-changing for me. And I think it helped my grandparents too, because they were from Mississippi and they had that mentality. And so I think from that moment, they were like, oh, what have we done?
I'll get into a
So for me, that changed me, and I passed that on to my kids. We don't do that colorism. We don't have that in our household at all.
Well, that's good. And please don't feel bad. Please don't feel bad. Because there are some adults that have conversations in front of children that they should not have.
They should not have.
You know, yeah.
And children are sponges. But one of the things that you did show like there's life lessons, but we have to go and reconcile it, because you could have took that in a whole nother way. You know what I'm saying? And we have to be able to talk about this. Because one of the key pieces in my life is I belong to an organization called Simba. Now, when I first started Simba, it wasn't an acronym, but now Simba means safe in my brother's arms, which basically talks about us being able to cry and get our pain out, because a lot of us we're carrying stuff that we don't understand or that we felt wasn't fair, and that's in that inner child, and that's acting against us moving in a positive way in this world. And it's like, we got a bunch of grown people. We got a bunch of children in grown bodies running around, wounded, hurting other people.
Yeah, we do.
I totally agree. Thank you, Sister Kim, for sharing, because this is a safe space. This is a space where we can. I can't say we've all had those experiences, but we've had something that was it changed us, it moved us. Yeah. And so one of the activities that I would like for us to do on next week, so please everyone show back up next week, and bring a mirror with you, because on next week I'd like for us to do some mirror talk. And in that mirror talk, we're going to all recite passages that we're going to speak to ourselves, but inadvertently we're going to be speaking to our inner child. Okay, so how does that sound? Good? Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, Brother Spence, hey, so happy that you were able to join us, and I'm sorry if there were any technical difficulties at all, but we're talking about our inner child, so we want to shift the conversation into, because Brother Hatem brought up a good point. He said that a lot of us are adults in body, but we're still these small children. Brother Hatem said before we even started that if we don't address these issues, the inner child issues, then we're not addressing those issues that relate to us or pertain to us within our community as a Black community. And so I like for us to shift the conversation to, you know, how our inner child has impacted our community, how our inner child can impact our community from a healthy perspective. So, Brother Hatem, will you lead us in this discussion, this portion of the discussion in terms of our inner child and its impact on the community?
Well, I could try. You know, that's all I could do. I wasn't ready for that one. But so once again, you want me to lead the discussion in talking about how
the inner child in our communities, like, because you said at the beginning, you were saying how, you know, we need to address
right. So you want to talk about the healing. So we need to. One thing is we need to take the time and have discussions like we're doing now about this, because this is an issue that we'll jump over, because this fits into the therapy. This fits into seeing a psychologist thing, where it's like, boom, that's kind of off limits. But we have to understand that we all have pains that are common, right? And because we try to deal with these pains alone, it makes us weaker. It makes us unhealthy, because we're carrying burdens that we don't need to be carrying. I remember I have several adopted daughters, and one of my daughters used to come, and she had real big shoulders. You know what I'm saying? And I had to talk to her one day. I said, "Babe, why are you walking around here like you carrying the world on your shoulders?" And she broke down her story. And I got to listen to her story, and I was like, damn, I understand, right? Many of us are not sharing our story. Many of us are not sharing what we went through. Many of us are, because we feel it's not important. I tell people all the time, you got to tell your story. This is what connects human beings. Storytelling is literally our first technology. You understand what I'm saying? So when we start and when we start investing time in exploring our inner world, we'll start unleashing the thing that we really want to be. Because actually the thing we want to be is being held hostage by those unhealed parts within us. You understand what I'm saying? So, the work, it takes work, and it takes you surrounding yourself with people that you could trust, that you can have these type of conversations with. Go out to the woods, have a nice little campfire, and talk. You know what I'm saying? Share the stories from that. And the stuff that's too deep for even a group, you might need to go through some therapy, because as you start walking through, you start feeling some of the stuff fall off of you. You'll start getting healthier. But I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be leading the conversation. So what do anybody else out there feel about healing the inner child? Is it important? Is it something that we should strive for?
I think that Brother Mark is a therapist, and I would really like for him to, address that.
Well, to go with what Brother Hatem is saying, first of all, we all have to embrace that we all have a mental illness. Even though you might not have to address the issue, we all have a mental illness. Because, and I feel when people come in the door and say they're hearing voices, we're quick to say they're schizophrenic. But we all hear voices. It's what the voices tell you, or what the voices are saying to you, and how you embrace what those voices are doing for you. Being in the therapy field, I've had to learn how to embrace who I am, so that I can actually listen to others. We always tell people in the counseling field, the best therapist is a therapist that never talks. Your job should be to listen, never have your input. Because sometimes we have a tendency to want people to live in our lives or live like we live, and that's the wrong place for them to be. They need to be able to live like they need to live, not like you. If you like fine restaurants, they might like McDonald's. You shouldn't actually put them in a position where they now have to live in a particular point of life they don't want to be in. If they're happy where they're at, let them be happy where they're at.
I totally agree. Thank you, Brother Mark. Thank you for that, because I know that as a therapist, sometimes people may be reluctant to go to therapy, and I really appreciate what Brother what Brother Hatim said about, you know, us telling our stories. You know, you'd have to get into, some people, they just talk and they keep talking. They don't mind talking. They don't mind telling everybody everything. Some parts of me are like that, but then there are other parts of me that aren't like that. Those parts that I want to kind of keep to myself and not want to share unless, of course, I feel safe. Yes, Brother Mark.
So can I say this? And sometimes the problem with people who like to talk a lot, they don't want to be healed.
Oh, whoa.
They just want to tell it. They always want to tell a story, but don't want to solve their problems.
Oh.
You got people, like my wife always says, have a pity party. Some people like living in pity party lives. They like everybody feeling sorry for them instead of them actually trying to heal themselves so they won't be in that position anymore.
Wow. Wow. Brother Spencer's shaking his head. Jump on in, Brother Spence.
First of all, how y'all doing tonight? And no, I mean, he's just absolutely right. That was actually one of my hardest lessons to learn. It's a blessing and a blessing. So it's a blessing because I'm an excellent listener. And God blessed me with a really patient ear. Perfect strangers will come up to me and just share some of their personal business. You know, it's always been like that. But then it was also a blessing that I was eventually able to learn that everybody hasn't earned that from me. You know, and I'm not everybody's sounding board. At one point, I think my ego was in it. It made me feel good, to feel needed and feel wanted in those capacities. A couple things I looked up, and it goes back to a childhood hurt. People were doing this and they were taking advantage of my ear, but when I was looking at, when I was in need, nobody was there to listen to me, and those who were, they were watch tapping me. They're like, okay, you know, I kind of got, you know, I got this going on. You know, what was really happening? And I'm sitting here like, no, you're not. Not after you called me for the 6th week in a row crying about the same dude who did you wrong 4 times in a row. I know you're not, you know, looking at the clock when I need, you know, something. So, but I had to grow to a point where I just like, and then like Counselor said, first thing I do coming through the door is I ask them, what do you want from me right now? You know, when someone calls me with something on their chest, I'm like, what do you want? What, how can I support you in this? Are you even, because I had to, you know, maybe they don't want my advice. Maybe they just need to get it off their chest. Maybe talking it out to somebody other than themselves will help them bump into the truth they need to hear. So that's the first thing I ask them, like, what do you need? What do you want? And then if they say, well, tell me what you think, then the second and the most important question I ask them is, do you want me to tell you what I think you need to hear? Or do you want me to tell you something to make you feel better? I can do either one. You just let me know which one. Because I used to say, yeah, I'm going to put it out there. And I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And I was losing people. You know, I was losing people. I was hurting people's feelings. And then I was coming back and I was like, hey, but I was telling you the truth. And they didn't say it like this. But basically what I was able to discern is that, what's the old saying? A truth told out of season bears no fruit.
Ooh.
I was planting all the wrong truth seeds in all the wrong seasons. And wasn't nothing come, and I was losing people and I was hurting people's feelings. I was coming across like I wasn't being sensitive and all these kind of things. So yeah, so like now I check in with you before you even get started. You want me to just listen? Okay, shoot, go ahead. I'll put myself on mute and I'll just let you go. And if you tell me no, I want you to tell me what you need, what I need to hear, I'll preface. Okay, you may not like it. That doesn't mean you don't get to not like me anymore. You know, you have to still like me after I tell you something that you don't like. Now, if we can agree to that, then we can go on. And ever since I started doing that, I've been having more success. But it took me a while to find that rhythm, y'all. Hot minute.
Yeah, I think that was important what you said. You prefaced the conversation with, okay, you might not like me. You know, let's agree that you're going to, you know, so that we can continue this. I think that's important. I think it's also important to, again, have people that you feel comfortable, that you can share, you know, that you can share yourself with, and that you don't feel like I'm going to be persecuted for this, or I'm going to be judged for this. I especially, Kim, I just have an extra special adoration for you. Not that I didn't have any adorations at all, but I have an extra special adoration because you started telling of yourself and of your truth, and you said, I don't know, I feel kind of embarrassed, but you said it anyway. That made me feel so, I'm like, thank you for sharing, thank you for sharing, because you didn't have to, but I feel that you felt safe, and we should all applaud ourselves for keeping this environment in a safe space.
So real quick too, to look on another side of this, we also have to embrace that everybody does not want therapy.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we trying to make people go through therapy. If they're not accepting it, they're not accepting. When I was in the therapy, when I was actually doing therapy, I saw all the alcohol and drug users in the county I was working in. And so I had to finally get to a point to accept that they wanted to use drugs and drink alcohol. There was nothing I was going to do to make them stop. So what I started doing, I started telling them what would happen if they keep using. I never told them to stop. Some embraced it, some didn't. We always laugh about one of the clients I had. Every time he would get his check, I would say, Barney, where your money at? I drank it.
Oh.
But I had to learn that's his life. That's where he wanted to be. And I had to accept that.
Wow.
Accept.
Hey, Doc, what's going on, Doc K? Whenever she gets on here. But when I say you just preached a mouthful right there, took me a minute, embarrassingly long to get this, but if the human brain doesn't want to see something, it's real easy for that person to not see it.
Word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's denial is a real comfortable place. I mean, you can have people pictures, y'all, pictures. You just and if they don't want to see it, they
ain't gonna see it.
They'll just check out the conversation on you. What you got, brother? Uptown?
Or if they've been trained not to see it.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have been we in many cases have been trained against therapy because we're supposed to be strong and supposed to be able to make it regardless of what's going on. We're not, just manhood training. You know what I'm saying? It was a period of time where let me speak for me. As a young man, I was having competitions with other young men about who could not cry. You know what I'm saying? And we would go through all types of shit and not reveal our feelings. This was part of growing up for me, right? And it took me a while to come up out of that because it's like I'm holding stuff in that's really tearing me up. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember certain things in my childhood that I would have to go through, and it was such a weight not to cry. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't. I ain't gonna say couldn't. I refused. You know what I'm saying? Now, and I want to go back to what Brother Mark says. In order for therapy to happen, it has to be accepted. Yes. And as Brother Spence said, we have to give people the option. Do you want the truth, or do you want me just to listen? You know what I'm saying? Or do you want me to tell you, because that right there shine some light on it for some of the conversations that I'm going to have. You know what I'm saying? But when I'm doing my coaching, I'm honest. I got to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? And I have to say, but in a personal thing, right? You have to, because sometimes people are not ready to move.
Correct.
They're happy where they are.
Yes.
They're happy in their misery. Yes. And sometimes we mess up thinking that, hey, let me save you from your misery. That ain't your job. You know what I'm saying? Because because you could provide all the therapy you want and all of the support that you want, but if the person doesn't take it, you wasted your time. You know what I'm saying? Right. You can't make nobody accept it. Nope. So, you got to have accepting people. And that's one of the things I started doing in some of the practice that I have as far as working with young people. People call me, say, I need you to work with my nephew or whatever. Is your nephew willing to be worked with? Mm-hmm. Because you ain't gonna bring. I ain't taking no more. I ain't holding no more hostages. I ain't gonna drag nobody to freedom no more. I ain't doing that.
You're not gonna be Harriet.
Nah, but you gotta realize Harriet didn't drag. There was no way that she could make it to where she was going unless she had people that was willing to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. 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 I think there was another question that I was going to, golly, well, I can't think of that question. It was right there on the tip of, maybe it's my age. Maybe
Stop,
it's my
stop.
age.
Well, why you find it, Doc, to Brother
Right.
Hudson's point, when I was at Morehouse, when the professors used to just talk about us, about how trifling we were, that was a catchphrase they used to say around there all the time. They were like, you know what? Some of y'all are the Negroes that Harriet Tubman would have shot.
Oh, right. Right. Right.
Because brother, she didn't beg you. Like once you said you wanted to go, you just come on, and you got to stutter stepping and acting scared after that. Those conversations were real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, can I say this too? To go back to the therapy part of the process, the best therapist I ever had is sitting right beside me. Because how she actually made me realize certain things. She never asked me to go anywhere with her or do things with her. But when she come back and I asked her how was it, she'd always make the same statement. Won't you come see? So by actually not giving me information, now I use it in my trainings. When I'm doing trainings with individuals and I have the trainings and everybody talking about they really enjoyed the trainings or they didn't enjoy the training. And they're like, so if anybody asks you what was the training about, you tell them to come see.
Smart. Brother Hatem, yes.
That was one of the methods of us teaching. We would ask questions rather than give answers.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? But now we're in a culture where I'm supposed to be able to provide the answers. No, I'm supposed to provide clarifying questions so that you could come to the conclusion yourself. That's really what we're supposed to be doing. I ain't supposed to answer your stuff. I'm supposed to go on and ask you a question so that you can figure it out for yourself. You understand?
So can I say this? Can I say this, Brother Hatem? It's funny now because as trainers, you have to realize you're not the authority. You just have a little bit more knowledge.
Right.
Because there's a difference. Because you'd be surprised how many people sitting in a room with you knows exactly what you're talking about and can say it in a different way. It does not make you the authority. It just means you have a little bit more knowledge than they currently have.
Mm-hmm. Or just know a way to verbalize it differently. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other thoughts on inner child? We have Dr. Kara Say here. She just sent me a message saying that she's a part of the whole NFL draft activities and she decided to join us for a minute. We're so happy to have you, Dr. K. How are you?
I am doing well. Hello, everyone.
Hello, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sarah.
Trying to turn this up a little bit.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Did that work or did I mute myself again?
No, we can hear you.
Uh-oh. I don't hear anything. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me see. Okay, now I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, yes, I have so much going on. Yeah, it's been a long weekend. I have family from out of town, but I have a cousin in Florida. Her law firm actually represents athletes. So she's up here from Orlando. And of course, some other people came in. So if you all hear some noise, I tried to escape downstairs. But if you hear some noise, I still have some family in from out of town.
Well, we are glad that you are here. We are glad that you are here. What we're going to do is, we've been talking about our inner child, and we've had such a great conversation. And on next week, we're going to continue our conversation. What came to me was what Brother Hatem said about storytelling. He said that storytelling was our first technology. So our assignment for next week, should you choose to accept this mission, our assignment for next week is for each of us when we come to bring a mirror. And we're going to have some mirror talk where we're going to talk to our inner child. And you may not necessarily literally have to have a mirror per se, but it would be helpful if you did, because we're all going to collect. All right, Brother Hatem, he has his mirror. Let me see if I can see me in there. No, I couldn't. But we're gonna do some mirror talk on next week, and we're gonna be talking to our inner child, and then we're going to. I would like for you to come equipped with a story to tell. Now, I feel comfortable with you all. I feel safe with y'all. I feel like I could tell y'all just about any and everything. Just about. I don't want to tell it all, but I feel safe and comfortable with you all to share the stories, because just like you all said, you feel a relief once you let it out. Like it's such a burden when you keep certain things in. You feel like this 50-pound weight has been lifted off of you, especially if you feel like this is a safe space. So come equipped next week with something that you have had happen to you that you feel like, hey, I just want to let it go. But please don't come and tell us that you murdered anybody. Please don't come and tell us that you mistreated an animal or something. Just none of those, because we just can't handle it. Brother Hatem, yes.
I want everybody to keep safety in mind, because we are streaming. Please keep in mind we're streaming. All right, now those that want to go a little bit deeper, Dr. Jackson is going to eventually have something after the show. I don't call it Love Season. I don't know what she's gonna call it, but it's going where we won't be streaming or whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But right now, this is going out, so be careful with what you share, especially if you got a hating coworker that might just tune in just to hear your story.
Yes, that's right. So you know what, Brother Hatem, you are the brains of this operation. Let's carry our storytelling to another platform. How about that? We could do the mirror activity because it'll be very general, but maybe let's carry our storytelling to a different platform. Is that okay? Because you brought up a great point, Brother Hatem. Yep, and Dr. Karasay said, that's why I was like,
I am too. Yep.
Okay. So, like I said, don't come tell me how you put the
She's
dog.
a real therapist, man. She done threw up the mandated reporter. All right, Lord have mercy.
Yep. Yeah. So, all right. Any other thoughts? How do you all feel about this conversation about our inner child, Sister Kim?
I feel bad about this because I'm kind of negative about this. I feel like, I don't have to say it. I feel like it's like a seesaw. You got the people who are kind of like in tune with their inner child are here. The people who are not in tune with the inner child are here. I feel like that's the society I live in now. I feel like whenever I go to the store, when I'm driving down the street, I live in Chicago, so I'm just like constantly aware of the fact that you have a lot of people who are on a primal level and they just snap so easily all the time. So I'm always aware of that when I'm out and about. So, I feel like this conversation is very good for us and very healthy for us. But I feel like right now, we're like in the trenches in our society. It's like you step outside your door immediately. You could be faced with someone who's dealing with a lot of stuff and not willing to accept it and are willing to just unleash it. That's how I feel. So I don't want to be negative, but that's just how I'm kind of seeing this right now.
That's not negative. That's truthful.
That's
dealing with somebody who has an unhealed. I don't know how to deal with it. My child was abused. So the only way I know how to do it is abuse others. And you just happen to be in the right place at the right time to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also struggling. I'm also where she's at. I'm struggling with that because I'm seeing every day the lack of humanity. And I am just, I don't know. Every day I struggle with that because I am just walking around like, how can humans treat other humans? And just the I don't even know what you call it. It's just like we're living amongst real live demons.
That's how you call it. You said it right. If you look at demons, demons is daemon, of man.
Oh,
of man. You know what I'm saying? So where else is demons gonna manifest other than in humans, human beings? You know what I'm saying? We are. So yeah, you're existing among when you strip us of our moral compass, right? We're dealing with daemons.
And then when you all were talking about telling your story, when you go to tell your story, I don't know if you're talking to the wrong, sometimes you go to tell your story, but then the person you're talking to feel like you're judging them, versus you're telling your story because you've been there. You're trying to help them, but people are so, I don't know, like defensive and different things that what you say when you're trying to help is taken as a negative. So I've been struggling.
All we can say is welcome home. Welcome home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for Mark, you are you counsel, and I'm the case manager. So I always tell my clients, I'm just like them. I just haven't been diagnosed.
Correct.
And I always tell people, you know, when you start putting labels and you want to judge people, the only difference between me and you is you actually have a diagnosis. I don't. I haven't got that diagnosis.
Yep.
But we all struggle with something.
Yes.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. And the positive side of this, because I struggle as well. The positive side of this is that those of us who are here tonight have not felt it a harm or robbery to come and open up and share. We all experience something. You're in Chicago, I'm in Atlanta, Brother Spencer's in Atlanta, we're in Ohio, South Carolina, and Missouri. So we all experience this. And then being African-American, oh my gosh, it's just a lot. So I'm thankful that we're here tonight, and whenever we show up, I'm thankful that we feel comfortable enough, that we feel safe enough to come here and share. We have a lot of great times, in spite of the reality that things are tough. But this is still a great place for us to, just come and let your hair down, just gather together some hope. And that's what I'd like for us to walk away every time we leave, is that there is hope, because there are horrible things happening in the world, but there's a whole bunch of good stuff too. And I like for us to illuminate the good stuff. All right. So don't feel bad. Please don't, with anything you share, please don't, no judgment here. I mean, there's a whole bunch I could say, but just don't feel bad. Yes. Dr. K.
I guess I'm trying to get a complete understanding of what the actual topic is. So forgive me if I stray a little bit, but just addressing what some of the ladies said as far as their emotions and feeling bad about what they share. That is, it's pretty typical, because just as with your physical health, our mental health has been very stigmatized in the African American community. And as a result, because there are barriers to our access to our physical health, the barriers to our mental health are just as strong. And the major two are systemic racism and religion, to be honest, just to put it out there. But as far as your emotions are concerned, just to be aware that You are entitled to feel how you feel. And the only way to get past it or to overcome it and even to process it is to acknowledge it and understand that your feelings first are valid because they are yours, right, wrong, or indifferent, they are yours, and all of that can be sorted out later. But also understand that when something is wrong or does not feel congruent
So
in
what?
our spirit, it's mostly because of guilt
Why you
and
coming out here
shame.
to tell me?
But
Tell somebody
understand
else.
the difference
Tell your
between
cousin.
the two
Tell
because
Gina
one is
you hungry.
okay. It's good to feel guilty about something that we have uh, perhaps done to someone, because that just simply means that we have empathy or sympathy, and we should feel bad about that. And that's where guilt comes in. And so guilt will say there is a problem. The opposite of that would, for the best way I can explain it, is shame, which is the problem. So where guilt says there is a problem, shame is the barrier that says I am the problem. And that is what you have to ignore. That is what you have to push away. That feeling. You are not a feeling. You are not shame. Whatever you have done or experienced at some bad moment in your life is not the sum total of who you are as a person. And when it comes to therapy, there are so many approaches to therapy and so many different therapists, life coaches, lifestyle coaches, whatever the case may be, because there are different levels to it. And it's okay to get a second or third opinion. We all don't mesh with everyone. And so when you go to a therapist and you find that their approach, now I'm not encouraging doctor hopping because you need consistency. And that's another thing that you should look for when you go and you see your therapist. There are things that should be addressed. There are five key areas that should be addressed as far as your safety and being able to process information. But the issue is if that person is not providing your needs, then they should be able to refer you to someone else. So if you are in just a therapy session with a therapist and there may be some underlying eating disorder or a substance abuse issue, then they will refer you to someone like me who will be able to perhaps provide medication. Just something on a different level where they are not able to do. Or if you are with that same therapist and they see, okay, well, this is just you going through, maybe you're depressed or sad because you just lost your job. Well, you should feel that way. Or you're grieving because someone passed away in your family. Well, that wouldn't necessarily mean that that you have a diagnosis of depression. That just means that you may need some help going through this one situation that has happened in your life, or maybe a career change, and you step down to someone less credentialed, like a life coach. So there are different areas of therapy. But when it comes to just addressing what was said earlier and in dealing with people, one thing that I specialize in is trauma informed care. And the biggest way, especially with everything that's going on now in the world and what we've gotten through with COVID, is that you approach people in the mindset of what or how you deal with people. You deal with them on the level of what who they are rather than what has happened to them, and you meet them where they are because you don't meet people and start addressing everything that has happened to them when they were a child. That may be the cause of why they are responding to you the way they are, or maybe the reason why they are outside doing the things they're doing, or unleashing or unloading or whatever it is that you just encountered with them. But there's also this thing where you can re-traumatize people and you can exasperate that situation. And that is its own beast that you do not want to deal with. But if you are addressing exactly what is going on right at that moment, and then also encouraging people that even though this may be going on with you right now and it is valid, you will survive moment by moment. And just as when you woke up this morning and you did not think you were going to get through this day, it is 1 p.m. this afternoon and you have made it thus far. And you will make it until 5 o'clock because you have, and you start bringing out whatever positives that you can. And that creates an environment of safety first, where that person will feel like they can engage with you. And that is how you start those small moments of helping people to have better connections, to process information with you. But to start addressing things that happened when they were children, they don't quite understand it. So it will be very difficult for them to process it within themselves, let alone be able to give that information to someone else. So I'm not saying that that's a topic of the discussion tonight, but I'm just saying be mindful of how you deal with people. I know we talk about a lot about lending grace to people because you never know what they are going through. So that's why you have to meet people where they are, and it's not easy. It absolutely is not easy because, of course, when you meet someone and the first thing they're doing is popping off, your immediate reaction is to either just disengage out of attitude, or is to match that energy, back with them. So, but it serves no purpose but for you to start behaving just like them. So, and then it brings your mood down. So again, it serves no purpose. But again, all of us, like someone said earlier, all of us are dealing with something all the time or at some point in our life, just because of who we are in this world and just because of the skin that we're in. Mm-hmm. And we have to know what the underlying cause and the root cause of all of that is. And the same way that we address those barriers to our physical health, we have to address the barriers to our mental health. And so when you do find spaces like this that Thora has created, or those spaces with your spouse, and I'm so glad that the brother said that, because there are so many men who just don't even like their women and that don't even understand that your wife can be when they say that your wife is your helpmate, that does not mean that she is your slave or that she is that person that is in your house cleaning and cooking and doing those things. She is that person that you speak with, and vice versa, and that you talk to and that you share with and that builds you up. And because I have just found in my practice that a lot of men are raised to really believe that women are here to serve them. And that comes from just being in a patriarchal society and getting the information translated to them through the lens of someone else who sees it that way instead of the truth. And so,
Doctor, I was gonna ask you, you just brought up something, and I'm kind of like Brother Hatem, where he I gotta say it right here and there. Now, what I'm about to say would shift us to a whole nother something. And it's going to definitely be a conversation. I want to know if this is true or not. I have read somewhere where the brothers that are having issues and they're saying this, that, and the third, that maybe there's this hate that they have just in general for women. Please don't talk about it right now. Please, 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 please. I just want to know if
it's true.
Don't answer, Doc. Please don't answer. Please, please, please.
I can just say yes because I have to answer it without going into detail about it because it's a very layered conversation. It's a very layered conversation.
I was gonna say that,
and I completely understand what you're saying.
Okay. Yes.
But the reason of even pointing that out and bringing up the couple is because when you have what you have, it's important that you share that. It's important that everything that you just said here with us, where you say that I gave this to my wife, I gave this to my mate, the person that I have chose to walk this earth with for the rest of my life. And here I am, happy, healthy, thriving, and we are doing this together. You have to say that. You have to tell other people that this is what marriage looks like. This is what the Black family looks like. This is what a brother, this is what a man, this is what the head of the household does and how he treats his woman. That you have to say, you have to show that. You have to live that, and you have to verbally communicate that so that you can start to dispel all of these myths and all of these things that these men are getting from Kevin Samuels and from the church, from the wrong church, and from these internet therapists and just everywhere else that all of this information is just coming in from, because it's coming from everywhere. You know, you can't block it. You know, when we were younger, our parents used to just block MTV and cable. You know, that's where everything was coming from with us, besides our stupid little friends at school. But there's so much coming at people today from so many sources, and everybody that can Google and get WebMD is an expert.
Is an absolutely.
Exactly. But you don't have living examples like you have right here.
Right.
So you have to share it. And so even when you do go to therapy and you do find that therapist or that person that has brought you out of whatever that circumstance is, talk about it. Talk about it and end that stigma so that people understand that there is nothing wrong with going to therapy, and that you don't have to be the proverbial crackhead, or you don't have to be so down and out in everything, and that is just what therapy exists for, because that's not what it's about. But if we aren't talking about it, and if we aren't sharing it, and if we aren't being the faces of therapy, then they are only going to see what happens on TV.
That's right.
Are always being depicted in the worst light.
That's right. Brother Spence, I don't know if you cleared your space because you were going to say something, or do we need to shift it? Thank you, Sarah. Hold that thought real quick. Brother Spence, were you going to say something, or were we going to shift it?
I mean, I kind of want to underpin what the doctor was saying, and we don't have to talk about the hatred now or that part. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's his own series of sofa chats. Like, that needs to be like months and months and months, because like Doc said, there's so much to unpack there. However, the only reason I wanted to mention it today is because I feel like it plays to what Brother Hatem was saying about so much some of us like don't speak on it, and some of us aren't even aware of how traumatized we are, or how battered and bruised we are. Like I certainly wasn't, you know. And one of the things that we don't talk about in our community, there's a lot of toxic mothers out here, y'all.
Yes.
It's a lot of toxic mothers out here, and at one point I was probably more fist in the air with it now, but it's so you see, okay, so Kanye, as soon as you get on, he gonna leave you for a white girl. As soon as the brother gets successful, he's gonna leave you for a girl of another race, and we see that a lot. But whenever I hear that, because of how my mother was verbally and physically and sometimes emotionally abusive. When I hear that, my first question is, what was his mom like? you know, because my mom got her toxicity from my grandmother. You know, my mom and my grandmother, they both thought that challenging them or disagreeing with them was a green light to just go off on you if you were a man. That's how they saw it. Disagreeing with them in their mind was disrespecting them, and the only way to remedy that was through loud, embarrassing, cut your balls off, cut you down in front of who's ever standing there. And my uncle didn't date white women, and didn't date black women. My uncle didn't date. He's very black. Both of his parents were black, and he didn't date black women. And my mom had so much attitude for him about it, and she really hated him about it. And then one day I asked her, you know, when I got older and I got kind of understood relationships, and I understood how she was, and my mom loved her, but she couldn't keep a relationship going because of the way she thinks it's appropriate to talk to men. When I was probably in my late 30s, I asked my mom, I was like, okay, yeah, Uncle Sam didn't date black women, but with women like grandma in his life, can you blame him?
Oh my.
You know, and that was the first time my mom had ever thought about the fact that maybe the way my grandmother talked to him, maybe the way my grandmother was always breaking his back, maybe the fact that like it was never enough. You know, that's how both of them are actually. But she just thought that my uncle got a little success and just turned his back on sisters. She didn't see that this was like a kind of an attrition kind of thing. And then once he got away from our culture and started dating women from other cultures, maybe he saw something that he never got. So I don't know, but yes, I think there is a deep-seated, latent hate by some men for women that goes with them. And then listen to our music. One of Jay-Z's most popular songs ever, one of the most popular songs in the history of hip hop, Big Pimpin', right? Big pimpin'. Everybody want, what's up, pimpin'? 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 I grew up in a neighborhood with pimps. You can't really like women and pimp. Not in Chicago. Not when it's like getting into single digits and she's cold and you telling her she need to get out there and make your money. You know, but so we kind of like Snoop, I don't love these hoes, you know what I mean? Biggie, I don't chase them, I replace them. And all throughout our music, you are seen, you are painted as this weakling, as this simp, as this whatever, for being sensitive, for respecting women, for listening to women, for wanting to date women, for not slapping a sexual target on every woman you meet's back. You know, so that it's in our culture. The misogyny is such part and parcel for how many ways we are, unfortunately, that it's almost hard for them to escape. No other, think about it, y'all. Think about the music. No other race of men disrespects their women via music the way we do. You ain't never heard no country music, bitches and whole song, not never. You know?
Never, ever. Can I say I agree with you? No, I was going to say I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I've thought about this too. But yes, that is true. But also, Black people, or African Americans, we don't really control our culture. So since we don't control our culture, I don't know if you can really compare us culturally to another culture that don't do what we do because of the position we're in, and we're used as a tool for white supremacy and our music and things like that. We don't really own it like that. So I agree with you, but I just wonder if we can just kind of go, if we can compare us equally to other cultures, like as it relates to that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. No other race of people on the planet can be compared to Blacks in this country, because no other race of people, a professor at Morehouse, Dr. Jackson, we talked about this word, y'all. No other race of people has been deracinated. He had a brother had that word added to the American lexicon. It's in dictionaries now, but it's basically deraced. No other race has been gone, taken from their motherland, plucked up, taken someplace, seasoned, stripped of their culture, stripped of their language, stripped, and then shipped off to someplace else for the sole purpose of being labor.
Yeah.
For the sole, everybody else in this country came over here because they wanted something, because they wanted to. You know, we were brought over here as labor. So no, I 100%. You can't compare us because we got so much baggage and so much trauma genetically. We got so much trauma now. We can't be compared. So I didn't. So yeah, thank you for for sound checking that. I didn't mean to make sense of comparing, but yeah, no, we can't be compared. No, you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100% on that.
And thank you for that. Let's see. What time is it? Y'all, this conversation always gets so good. It's like 30 already, and it's almost about time for us. I know we've extended our time.
Yeah, we extended. But now one of the pieces that was brought up, we do need to have that conversation because we have a lot of brothers that are upset. And once again, that's that inner child that has not been healed. And then on top of that, that's the lack of control of our culture as well, because we're trying to interact with black women like white men. This is what you run into. You know what I'm saying? When you look at a lot of the talk that Dr. Kersey brought up, a lot of talking points are white male talking points as far as when it comes to how a relationship is supposed to be. And our relationships was never like that.
Nope. And if I can, 2 seconds, because I can't let you guys walk away and think that as far as our race is concerned. And I do what you said, brother, is valid. It is very, very valid. But understand that you are right. But think about that the front end of that conversation and the back end of that conversation that you all just had is just completely, that they're antithetical to each other. Because it's the entire thing. The one that holds true is that the entire thing are all white supremacist talking points. It's to give us that shame and to divide. Other culture, we are no different than other cultures when it comes to, I would say, as though we are just, or you all are just so harmful to us that black men are just so awful to women in ways that no other culture or race is correct. That's a white supremacist talking point to create a divide. Now we have a way of talking to each other, and we have it's been called so many things along the lines, whether it's Ebonics or the AABE and the vernacular English, however we want to say it. And that, there's no excuse for the cursing and things like that, but that is something that we do. And there's one part of our culture that sees the B word as a term of endearment, just as they do the N word. And there are others that disagree. Okay. So, and I'm just throwing that out there to use that as an example. So with that being said, we have our language and other cultures have theirs. But when you think about the videos and you think about the music, yeah, we may be using the B word and calling women, hoes or whatnot, but you still look at Latin music, you still see the women in the booty shorts, you still see them clapping them on their tail ends, you still see them sleeping with every last one of them, you still see them dismissing them the same way that it's happening in the Jay-Z videos. When it comes to the country music videos, they are doing it in cowboy boots and Daisy Dukes. They're doing the same thing that black men are doing, just not calling them bitches and hoes. It's about your perception, but they want to say black men are so awful. They are just so awful because they're calling their women all of these things in their music and such, which is true. It is true that those words are being used, and it is true that it is damaging. However, Latin men are doing the same thing in their lowriders and with the girls in their dresses and all of the things that the Latina girls and the Mexican girls of that entire community are doing in their videos. Their videos mimic ours. The same thing is happening in the country music videos. It is, but that is their language and that is their culture. Okay. So understand that it may be given in a different light. We are always focused on, just like black on black crime is another myth, like we are the only ones that are
Biggest myth.
when their numbers are higher. Ours cannot be highest. And why are we so of the hyper focus when we are the minority? Again, white supremacist talking points. Okay. And so even with that being said, we talk about the brothers not liking the sisters. It some or well, we'll get to that later. But even with everything that the brother said, when it comes to relationships first, there you have to understand why women don't come out the womb snapping off on people. You never know what grandpa did to grandma that made grandma say whatever she said to him the way she said it to him. Okay. And understand that relationships are complex. Okay. And the women, white women, Latin women, Portuguese women, Greek women cuss their men out the same way that we do. Okay. So floating to another race just changes the race. It does not change the men. You're going to get a woman that's going to cuss you out that same way. Okay. Or you're going to get a woman that's going to bow down to whatever it is that you're doing, which still does not just mean she acquiesces to your stuff. But understand that when you see things like that, and I'm not saying that there is not an underlying problem because no one needs to be talking to anyone that way. I just want us to get it out of our heads and understand that it is white supremacist talking point when we are saying that somehow what we say or do to each other is just so far damning and damaging than what they do to each other. Because there's nothing that we are doing amongst each other that they aren't doing. They talk to their women crazy. Have you not just seen the video of that man that was talking to his pregnant wife, that sportscaster man, and trying to make her walk down the street and go get the groceries and all this other crazy stuff? They do it. They just don't talk about it because we are the ones that are made to feel the shame. Okay. And so also when it comes to the mother or just a single parent household, as much as you focus on why mommy did so and so, also add into the answer that perhaps it happened not because of mommy's presence, but also because of father's absence. Okay? It cannot
absolutely
be about her being there. And then also think about what you said and what Black women hear and engage in and have to deal with. And then expect us to come through unscathed and just sit and not be affected by it. And again, understand that however you were talked to, because I've had some very unpleasant things said to me, when I was younger as well. And there's no excuse for it. And so I understand that I can't just blame my mom for it and just say that she's just the damaged Black woman and that the healing is only attributed to what, or she's just the cause of what happened.
I definitely agree with you, Doc. And I was not intending to say that there was any one point of failure with us. I mean, I think it's a mosaic. I don't think it's a snapshot. And so I agree with you. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I still don't think other races promote the disrespect for their women the way we do for entertainment value. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying you've never heard a Mexican or a bachata song like "Bitches Ain't Shit but Hoes and Tricks." Like, that was a whole knock in our community in the 90s. Like, that was a song, and that, you know, and that was just banging up and down every block. So I agree with you there 100%, and especially what you were saying about the absence of fathers. I'm the first one to say it's our fault, and I'm not trying to take it on the chin. I'm not pandering for penny. I'm not. Hold on. Let me finish, brother. Let me finish. I was just gonna say I'm the first one to take it on the chin because women can't get themselves pregnant. Okay, there was a moment where every man makes a decision about how he's about to interact with this woman. Sex does not have to result in pregnancy. We all know this. You know, we all know this. So there is a moment where a man decides he's going to take it and do this activity that could very well end up in pregnancy with this woman that he doesn't plan on sticking around and raising a family with. And that goes one of two ways. It's either going to be a boy who's not being raised by somebody who's showing him by how to be a man. It's going to be a girl being raised by a man who's not showing her love. So she's going to be out here looking for it in all the wrong places. So that's why I say, because and I know my doc's about to kick my ass on this one, because I've been had my ass kicked all over Spellman for saying this one. But life does not start in the womb. Conception starts in the womb. Conception starts in the womb, and it's a passive conception. The egg does not do anything to be fertilized. The sperm does all the swimming. It comes over. It overcomes all you all's natural defenses. It has to break through that egg. To break through the protection around the egg in order to impregnate you. Yes, conception of that zygote starts with the women, but when you look up a definition of life, one of the things it says is movement. The eggs don't move. They are moved throughout your all system. They are moved throughout. Sperms swim on their own target. So life begins with men. It really begins with men. So Dr. Kips, I want to let you know I'm in your amen corner. I wasn't saying women's fault, men's fault. I was just saying that the women's part is something, in my opinion, we don't talk about enough in our community. We talk about the absentee dads. We do talk about that. I mean, because hell, 70% of us are victims of an absentee dad. I just don't think we talk about the toxic momhood as much or enough. That's all I was saying. What you have on it, Brother Hatim? I know he's about to come on in the score.
I just was gonna say we need to. She keep talking about the blame. We need to go on away from that. We all are involved in a situation where we don't understand and we don't have the cultural grounding to really deal with it. So we have to start having these conversations. Now, but all this can be tied back into the original reason that we started talking about, the unhealed child. And we could talk about the unraised child. Shit. You know what I'm saying? We have the unraised inner child, the unhealed inner child out here running around, interacting, creating life. And then what do children do? Children look for others to blame. So we got women pointing the finger and we got men pointing the finger. Now, we are reaching the age of elders, many of us in this room. So we now need to have a conversation so that we can start looking where everybody can hold themselves accountable, or at least the people in our circles, because we're not going to save everybody. You know what I'm saying? I gave up on that a long time ago. But the ones we can save, take accountability for where you are in the situation that you are in. And I'm done.
And with that, I am going to suggest, with that, I would like to call Brother Mark to the microphone. Brother Mark.
First of all,
yes.
Go ahead, stop.
No, I was gonna say our time, it done slipped away from us. We're almost at 2 hours, and I don't want to belabor the moment. I know Brother Hatim he has to go to bed. He has a bedtime. And so we may have to bring this to a close in just less than 2 minutes. So Brother Mark, if you could give us your concluding word and then just give us a a word of dismissal. Please be here next Sunday for our activity and our continued discussion. Brother Mark.
It is okay to be helpless. It is not okay to stay helpless.
Whoa.
And with that, to each of you, a blessed night and a productive week.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you.
Man, I love y'all. I love these, man. You have a good week.
Have a great week, guys. This
Have a
was
great
great.
week.
What is a lion without his pride? What is a whale without his pod? What is a monkey without his troop? What is a wolf without his pack? The answer is very simple. They are the same thing that a human being is without a tribe. Pray. Peace, family. Yo, thank you for joining us. Right? And I'm thrilled to announce the fact that we are now releasing our first free e-course. Come and learn about Gye-Nyame journey, see some of the stuff we do. Come and join the tribe. Tribe up with us and check out the free e-course. And we'll make sure that the URL pop up right about here. And it'll probably be somewhere in here. Check us out, family, because we are building. Come and learn about Gye-Nyame journey, and let's build together.